I recently made a video covering what, in my opinion, is the absolute best build for endgame content in all of Destiny. If you haven't seen this video and plan on going for a day 1 clear of the raid that is released for Witch Queen, I will have a link to this video in the description below. After making this video, I wanted to cover another aspect of endgame builds that is arguably more important than the build itself, which is the armor that you run it on. What's going on, guys? It's Gminers here, and today we're going over the best armor stats to have on each character for endgame content and how to farm it. I assume that most people are completely aware of what each armor stat does, but I still wanted to go over what armor stats are worth utilizing and which are not for each class. To better understand this, we will first look at armor points and armor tiers and how many of these we have to work with when creating builds. To start off, each character has 4 pieces of armor that can roll with stats or points. The highest roll that you can get on legendaries is a 68 roll. This piece of armor can also be masterworked for 12 extra stat points, which brings it to an 80 total roll. Lastly, if you have mod slots and energy available, a stat mod can be added to increase the stats by 10 in any one area, bringing the roll to 90. On top of this, your 5th piece of armor, which is a class item, rolls with 0 stats, but can still be masterworked and fit with a mod. In total, this means you potentially could have 382 total stat points. This can go up slightly when using an absolute god roll exotic, but not by much, so this is why I didn't include an exotic in these calculations. Breaking this number down, every 10 points is equivalent to 1 total tier for 1 character stat. This means you could potentially get 3 stats to 100 or tier 10 and still have points left over to balance the rest of your stats out. With all this said, it is more realistic to consistently get 64 stat rolls, which would sum to 366 total stat points. So with the total number of points we have established, the question is, where should these points go? Recovery is going to be the primary focus for each class. No matter your character, you should always have 100 recovery. Each class should also have a secondary stat focus. For Warlocks, this is going to be Discipline. On Titans, this is either Discipline or Resilience, depending on the subclass you are using. And on Hunter, this is going to be Mobility. These secondary stat focuses should be as close to 100 points as possible. Discipline helps Locks and Titans with grenade builds. Resilience will be purely for Titans running Bubble, and Mobility will be for Hunters to play around their dodge ability. With these 2 stat focuses, you should have room to also increase your intellect to around 40 to 60 points. I do this on all classes just to help build super faster. Any character stat that you don't focus on will still end up having roughly 20 to 30 points. This is good to keep your build balanced, but it's also extremely hard to have less than this amount of points in any one area. After all, each stat will have 10 points at a minimum, and with random stat rolls, points are still going to end up in places that you might not want. I am predominantly a Warlock main, so looking at my stats, they end up summing to a total of 337 points. I am also using 2 mods that give me stat penalties of 10, but realistically, these are only taking away 14 total points because the strength on my chest piece is zeroed out. This would be a total of 350 points, which is still extremely close to 366. Even with this, you can see that I am wasting 17 stat points. Wasted stat points are anything that does not help you reach a new tier and is just left over. So ultimately, what I'm getting at is no matter how good your armor is, there's always going to be some waste, and in my opinion, 366 points is good enough to get the job done and is realistically farmable. Before I go over how to farm this gear, make sure to drop a like and sub down below. Subbing helps me out a ton, it is free, and you can always change your mind later. So, what is the best way to farm this gear? Number 1, always run an Armorer Ghost mod. These mods guarantee you a base stat roll no matter what piece of gear you get. If you have Umbrals, you can also use decrypted data from the Season of the Splicer to focus tier 3 Splicer armor in the helm. Doing this with a Ghost mod can help you get decent rolls for 2 different stats at the same time. The chest I currently have on was dropped when I did a tier 3 Discipline focused with a Recov Ghost mod on. If you need some decrypted data, you can run corrupted expunge missions. This will give you data and a chance for a high stat roll piece of armor at the end. You can get 3 of these each week and need a corrupted key code to do so. The corrupted Tartarus mission is going to be your fastest way to farm. Master Vogue is another great place to farm. Each week, the armor that drops is a different focus. You can also utilize a ghost mod here to once again get 2 stat focuses at once. Lastly, the final encounter from Prophecy drops high stat armor. You need to complete the entire dungeon on a character in order for the final encounter to be farmable for these armor drops. The armor drop should go straight to your postmaster rather than your inventory, so if you don't get a drop after killing the boss, don't freak out. These are all of the most efficient ways that I know how to get high stat roll armor. None of these methods guarantee the exact roll that you are looking for, but will be closer than base drops. I've also heard that the legend mode for Dares of Eternity drops high stat rolls, but I haven't gotten a chance to farm this yet myself, so I'm not sure. That is everything I have for this video, guys. Make sure to go get yourself some God rolled armor and let me know if you have any questions below. Hope this guide helps. Peace.